Hi, good evening. I'm Judy the YouTube Lawyer today. And with me tonight is my special guest, an attorney friend of mine named Dominique Williams, who has his own practice in Raleigh, North Carolina. Dominique graduated from North Carolina State University, where he received a Bachelor's of Science in Business Management. And before he pursued his lifelong goal of becoming an attorney, he worked as a mortgage consultant for 3 years. Then he went to North Carolina Central University School of Law, where he had the honor of arguing before John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, as well as Henry Fry, the former Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court. While he was in law school, he was also the president for the student chapter of the American Association of Justice at NCCU. So I am so privileged and honored that Dominique actually has time tonight on a Friday night to join us for this live stream. So let's try to add him in here. Hi, Dominique. Can you hear me?
Hey, Judy, yes.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much for being on the show. And who knows, maybe we'll have some people joining in who will ask some questions, which you might be able to see on the right side of the screen, but I'll
Okay.
flash them up on the screen if we have any questions later. So,
Okay. Well, thanks for
great.
having me.
Huh?
Thanks for having
Oh,
me.
sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here. So, would you like to go ahead and tell the viewers a little bit about like your family background and where you grew up?
Yeah, so I was born in California and I moved to Halifax County, North Carolina when I was a young boy. My dad is from Halifax County. And so I grew up out in the eastern part of North Carolina. I spent a lot of times working on the farm and, just outside as a child. And I left Halifax and went to NC State, to the big city.
The big
And I haven't looked back since. But yes, I'm from eastern North Carolina, farm country.
Oh, so what do you mean you worked on the farm? Did your parents actually operate a farm?
No, um, there are farms all around where I grew up at. So you have farmers who had tobacco crop, corn crop, peanut crop, different crops. So my parents always had me to help the farmers just for extra cash for the family. So the farmers would pay my parents directly for my work.
Oh, wow. So what kind of things did you do on the farm then?
Pick peanuts, lots of
Really?
times picking peanuts,
Oh,
picking tobacco, um,
oh.
corn, helping to sort haystacks, all those things, picking strawberries, just
Mhm.
help with mostly harvest.
Oh, okay. Wow. So I don't know if you ever told me that before, but that sounds pretty impressive, to do that kind of work. And then what did your parents do for a living?
My dad, he retired from the Air Force about 15 years ago.
Mhm.
So he joined the Air Force when he was about 17 years old. And from there, he traveled the world. And my parents actually met in California. My mom is from France, and her stepfather is or was in the military. So he traveled a lot. So my dad met her in California, and he brought her to the small town where I'm from, even though she traveled the world and she lived in all these different countries, and she moved to the small rural part of North Carolina. Um, but
Mhm.
yes,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
uh,
so it sounds like your mom spent most of her life in the United States then, or
at
she's
this
lived here a
point,
long time.
yes, yes. So she came here around 18 years old, 18,
Mhm.
19 years old, but
Mhm.
she graduated high school in Germany actually, but she was born in France and
Mhm.
she went to high school in Germany, but
Mhm.
she has been here most of her life by far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, how interesting. And here we have debt-free dad. Marcus is here. Thanks so much for
Hey,
being
Marcus.
here. Yeah.
it,
Thanks for
it must
joining
be nice.
in.
It must be nice to be a debt-free dad.
Or I don't know if he's still on his quest to be debt-free, but maybe we need to watch more of his videos to see what his exact circumstances at the moment. But I know he just recently sold some rental property, right? So hopefully
Okay,
you got some, nice windfall from that or nice profit. So thanks for being
exactly.
here.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, so then, did you have anybody else in your family who was an attorney when you were growing up? Like, did you have any role models?
No, not at all. My mom always told me that I was going to be an attorney one day simply because I had a mouth and I would always talk back and, all that stuff. But
Mhm.
no, not at all. It was just my mom pushing me based on, my personality, that stereotypical attorney. But you and me both know that attorneys come in all shapes and sizes and
Mhm.
personalities. So it's not always the mouthpiece. But she always told me that. But no, I did not have any friends or family growing up who were attorneys.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and then don't you have like two siblings? You have a brother and sister. Are you the oldest?
I have an older brother. He is a deputy sheriff in Halifax County. He actually works in the school system as a school resource officer.
Mhm.
And I have a younger sister. She worked at Lowe's Home Improvement in their distribution work.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Well, you just froze there for a moment there. So hopefully the connection comes back on. Yeah, Dominique is out on the town and not coming in from home. So hopefully you can maybe, I don't know, if you're totally frozen, then you might have to log in, log out, and log back in. So, okay. So while Dominique is frozen on the screen for now, I guess I will kind of toot his horn a little bit. I think he was a valedictorian of his high school class. And then he also won some sort of scholarship. I think it was called the Eagle Scholarship. And I sort of know this stuff because the reason I met Dominique was because he wound up being an extern for my little law practice back around 2008, I think, when he was still a law student at NCCU. Yeah, he's in deep thought. I don't know. Yeah, hopefully Dominique will be able to join us really soon. Yeah, because he's at a hotel in downtown Raleigh, I think. So he has to get back on the internet connection. Okay, there he is. He's showing up on my screen again. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Are you there?
Yes, I'm so sorry again. I am.
That's okay. That's okay. It's just debt-free dad and Christy and maybe a couple of other people that are on our stream right now. So
Okay.
it's all right. Okay, so were you the valedictorian of your high school class?
No, I wish. I was number
Oh,
three. I was number three in my class.
oh, okay. I don't know why I thought you were the valedictorian. Okay,
No, I wish. I was number three though, so close enough.
close enough. Yeah, yeah. And then, what was this Eagle scholarship that you won? Was that for law school or for college?
The Eagle Scholarship.
Yeah, I thought that you had some sort of like scholarship or partial scholarship. Am I
Well,
totally forgetting everything?
in undergrad, I did get, a lot of partial scholarships that helped me
Mhm,
go through undergrad. And
mhm,
in law school, I got the same thing. I would apply for different scholarships, writing essays, and that was
mhm,
really helpful. Smaller scholarships, maybe $1,000, 2,000 here or there,
mhm,
but nothing that paid for my entire law school experience.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, and well, what about undergrad? Because I thought you were also a football player at NC State. Did you get any sort of scholarship for being a football player?
well, I played for 2 years, but I actually walked on. So I was
Mhm,
hoping to get a full scholarship, but then I
mhm.
got injured, and
Oh,
that was the end of that football career. But luckily, my grades were always good, and I had a
mhm,
bright future based on my academics.
mhm. Yeah, that's great. And then, so on your website, it said that you worked in the mortgage industry for several years before you went to law school. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you wound up then going to NC Central?
Yeah, so the mortgage industry was great to where I'm at now, I think, simply because I had to sell mortgages to,
Mhm,
at the time, I was about 22, 23 years old, and I was meeting with professionals, going to their homes, trying to sell them a mortgage. Typically, it was a refinance. So that was intimidating at first to me because, again, I was this young guy, fresh out of undergrad, meeting with professionals or people older than me typically, trying to tell them why they should refinance their mortgage, how
mhm,
to save on debt, which markets should know about. Um, So, but that helped me with my people skills, being able to sit down with people and just tell them from my point of view why they should do what I want,
Mhm.
right? Because after all, it was a sales position. And so that was really helpful. Honestly, I did that job because it was available at the time when I graduated undergrad. I was applying for jobs and I saw that online and I was like, hey, that sounds interesting. And I took the class and I became a licensed mortgage loan officer. And from there, I had different job opportunities. But I did that for about 3.5, 4 years. But again, that experience really helped me with my current practice, just sitting down with people from all different backgrounds, races, ethnicities, and just telling them about their case and why I'm the right attorney for them.
Mhm. Yeah, great. And then, so how did you wind up going to NC Central?
Um, Number one, that's the only law school that really will let me in.
Oh, okay.
Being honest.
Yeah.
So UNC put me on the wait list, and for NCCU, I actually went through what is called a PBAP, a performance-based academic program, which was over the summer. And so I did that for 2 weeks. And I actually took a real law school class. It was property. I took a property class for 2 weeks, and I had to do good enough to actually be admitted to NCCU. So I did that program, PBAP, and that was a great experience. And I went to NCCU. I always heard a lot about the law school there, how tough it was, how rigorous it was, and it was a great experience by far. I wouldn't take it back for the world.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Yeah, so Marcus says he was also, yeah, I've never even heard of this program. So is
Hmm.
it for like people that might need a leg up, or like what is this? Like some alternative way to get admitted or something?
Well, you think about it, a lot of people who applied to Central also applied to UNC,
Yeah.
Duke, or other law schools.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, they felt they had the GPA to get into a UNC or a Duke or Wake Forest. So, sometimes UNC did not let them in. So I was competing. I had like a 3.1 or a 3.1, whatever, from NC State, but I was competing against people who had maybe a 3.5 or 3.6 or higher GPAs from undergrad, plus maybe a higher LSAT score, right? So, but yeah, so that's basically it. Based on my undergrad transcript and my LSAT, and they felt, okay, let's at least see how he would perform in PBAP. And I did great, in my opinion, in PBAP, and I enjoyed it. And from
Mhm.
there, they allowed me to enter.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Yeah, and so you were at NCCU in the day division, right?
Correct.
So it took 3 years for you to graduate then?
Yes, 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, can you give a really brief rundown about your experience at NC Central Law School?
Yeah, it was tough. It was enjoyable, but tough. I met a lot of great people there, great professors, lots of reading. I like to joke and say I learned how to read in law school,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
we all know how much reading it requires to make it through law school. And before law school, I was a good reader, but to learn how to read quickly and to interpret cases is a whole different level of reading. It was
Mhm.
tough. And I met great people like Marcus, who's along with us, great professors, and many of the people who I met in law school, they refer cases to me. So that network was great.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Oh, my friend Eunice is here. She has a YouTube channel also. Thanks for being here too. Yeah.
Mm.
So so then you graduate from NC Central. Were you involved with any of those extracurriculars like law review or moot court or any other types of activities there?
Yeah, I was very active. I told myself going into law school that, I may not have the highest GPA when I graduate, but I'm going to work the hardest to network. And that's
Mhm.
what I did. I was very active. I was active in student organizations. I did moot court. I did the trial team. I was able
Mhm.
to argue before the Supreme Court, as you read,
Mhm.
well, Chief Justice John Roberts. Um, And I was in leadership positions as
Hmm.
well. In fact, I was over the Kaplan PMBR bar prep course. I was the rep for that.
Oh,
They offered me a job when I graduated from law school as the regional rep for
oh,
Kaplan PMBR, but I said no, I want to practice law.
yeah. That's why you went to law school, not to be a salesperson, right?
Exactly. I
Yeah.
had sales experience
Hmm.
prior to law school. Plus, I did pretty good in selling there. So, but yeah, I was very active. I traveled a lot to conventions like
Hmm.
NCAJ, AAJ, the
Hmm.
American Association for Justice. I went to their Chicago convention.
Hmm.
And, as a law student, I just drove up there, I networked, and I met a lot of people from North Carolina who traveled to the convention in Chicago. I met them there, and I came back and I kept that relationship.
Hmm.
And even a few of them today I still communicate with. So, but yeah, I was
Hmm.
very active, and I actually got some scholarships by doing that, by being
Oh.
active. And just, again, I told myself I may not have the highest GPA, but I have a good personality, and I'm going to network to get that
Mhm.
job.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, you're like the best networker that I've ever met. So, like, what event was it where you met President Obama before he became president?
That was in Chicago, actually. That was at the AAJ National Convention in Chicago.
Oh, okay. So, you mean American? What does that stand for again?
The American Association of Justice.
Okay, yeah, and is that a trial lawyers group?
Exactly. It's the national version of NCAJ, for an example.
Yeah.
Yes, they focus more on national issues in tort and criminal law, similar to NCAJ, what they do in North Carolina.
Hmm. Yeah. So, how did you wind up getting a picture with him?
So that was like $1,000 per plate campaign
Wow.
event.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, here's your
Okay.
wife. Your biggest cheerleader is here. Hi, Joanne. Thanks
Hey,
for being here.
Joanne. But yes, that was a very expensive event. And I actually met this attorney in Northern Virginia, my aunt's best friend at the time.
Oh.
And I saw her at AAJ
Uh-huh.
before the campaign event. And she
Mhm.
had the money to, of course, pay the
Nice.
$1,000.
Mhm.
But I just went in with her. She was like, he's my guest. And I went in and I was there, right? And I networked and I met Barack Obama. And I
Uh-huh.
even had the opportunity to ask him questions and all that in there.
Mhm. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Yeah. So then what happened after you graduated?
After graduation from law school, I worked for a small firm in Cary,
Mhm.
Hardison
Oh,
Wood.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I actually interned with him for about 1 year, 2 semesters,
Mhm.
my 3L year. So he focuses on personal injury as well. He used to do some workers' comp, which I do a lot of workers' comp now as
Mhm.
well. And there I also did some criminal defense.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so what was it like working for a, small firm doing all these different kinds of areas of law? I mean, do you feel like you learned on the job or, like, how did you even know how to do those kinds of cases?
Yeah, I learned on the job. Hardison was great, I must say, because he
Mhm.
really took the time to sit down with me and show me. I would go to a lot of depositions with
Mhm.
him. I would help him prep for those depositions. I was there for all the major parts of his cases, even doing his discovery for him and, just submit it to him for review. So
Mhm.
that really helped me to learn how to do those things. And he wouldn't sit down to tell me this is how you do it. He would say these are go bys,
Mhm.
right? And I would read his go bys, his prior cases, and then I would submit them to him, and then we would sit down and talk about it. So I really do think he was very helpful to where I'm at now. I mean, he really taught me the practice of law when it comes to personal injury. Now, criminal defense,
Mhm.
that's trial by fire, you know.
Sounds like it, yeah. Yeah.
So my first trial in Crim D was in Durham, and it was
Mhm.
I think a larceny case, and I went to court first time meeting my client. It was court appointed,
Oh.
and the victim was present, and the judge said, "You're having a trial today. if you don't plead guilty. And here I am. I know the elements of larceny, but how do I apply that to the facts? I never even talked to my client before.
What?
So
Wow.
how do I try this case? And I lost.
Oh.
Yes, but yeah. So working with Hardison was great. I must say, you know, we did also tort industrial commission cases. You know, cases against the state, cases against the DOT, the Department of Corrections. So that was a good experience as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering, like, how is it that you met your client the same day that you had to do his trial? Like, I mean, aren't they supposed to give you a little bit more notice so you can actually talk to your client?
Well, it's court appointed and it's criminal defense, so it's very fast paced. And how it used to work back then, they would just fax you your clients, the clients' names and the file number and the nature of the case, the charges pending against the clients. And I'm sure Marcus went through this as well. And you know, oftentimes there was no phone number associated with that client. You know, so you would go there and you would just say, "Is John Smith here?" In the courtroom, and you would say, "I'm your attorney, Dominique Williams. Let's talk about your case." That's how that happened, right? It was a client who did not have a telephone number, who I could not reach out to prior to the court date, and that was the first set-in for me and him. But the state had the victim there.
Oh, so they wouldn't continue it, you know, just so that you could actually have some sort of prep time, or?
Well, I asked for a continuance, but that was denied because the victim drove about 2 hours to be there. And the DA was a pretty experienced DA. She took advantage of me. Again, I was new out of law school, really my first week or two going to court. And she actually added charges because my client wouldn't plead guilty. And I told the judge, look, you know, the DA just added charges to these larceny charges. I need time to prep. Motion denied. But since then, I found out that I had a statutory right to a continuance because of the new charges. And again, it was denied. I appealed the case, and it was eventually dismissed on appeal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's tough, you know, and doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence in the criminal justice system, you know, when people are so handicapped that way, you know, the defendant as well as their court-appointed attorneys. So.
And I had no idea what I was doing. You know, I knew the elements to the charge, but I mean, honestly, in court-appointed work, that's how you learn. But that really taught me. Yeah, see, you see Marcus, that's Durham, bro. You know, that really, you know, again, trial by fire. And when I walked out of the courtroom, other attorneys put me to the side and said, well, you had a statutory right to a continuance. And this is why, because of the charges being added.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so you get to like practice and learn law, you know, at the expense of these like poor people who couldn't afford privately retained counsel. Wow.
That's exactly what happened. But it didn't take me long to get my, you know, to get my ducks in order. Because again, that was a feeling that I did not like. I don't like, I always try to be prepared. And my wife would tell you this. I know she's on the call here, but I do not like the feeling of not being prepared. To me, I'm a product of my preparation. And I use that motto even today. You know, if I'm prepared, I'm confident, right? And if I'm not confident because I don't know what I'm doing. So I don't like that feeling. And, you know, so I learned from that experience, you know, and I had other experiences doing court-appointed work that I learned from because, again, it's trial by fire.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So, so then tell us some more, because I guess the title of this live stream was supposed to be, you know, how to succeed as a personal injury lawyer. So can you tell us more, like, how you built your own law practice then after you left that law firm?
Yeah. So while I was at my prior firm, I worked on building connections, you know, building networking opportunities, and I really worked on getting referrals in the personal injury world because I always knew that that's where I wanted to transition. I really enjoyed doing criminal defense, number one, because I really felt I was helping people but I also got trial experience. But I always knew that personal injury was where I really wanted to go for many reasons. Number one, you're making more money doing personal
Mhm.
injury work.
Mhm.
And it also gave me the lifestyle. It gives me the lifestyle that I want. I could work less, make more money, and spend more time with my family. So I just basically got out there and I networked, with primarily attorneys, people who don't do PI, who may
Mhm.
do criminal defense or family law, who their clients may we all get in car accidents, knock on wood that
Yeah.
I won't, but it happens to a lot of people. But networking with attorneys and telling them, hey, I'm the PI guy. If your
Mhm.
client or your brother, your mom, whoever it may be, is in an auto accident, just give them my information. And I promise to treat them with honesty and respect and do the best
Mhm.
job I can for them. And that's basically how I really started to get those referrals. So when I left my prior firm, I was at a point that I was generating pretty much all of my own cases
Mhm.
for personal injury. So
Wow.
I felt confident when
Uh-huh.
I left that I still could maintain that because I had built that network.
Mhm. Yeah, and weren't you active in a fraternity when you were in college too? So you had a lot of connections through that?
Yeah, so
Mhm.
Omega Psi Phi is my fraternity, and that's actually a lifelong fraternity. We have
Yeah.
graduate chapters, so I'm still active there. In fact, where I'm at now, I'm in a hotel because of my fraternity brother is visiting
Mhm.
from California.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, well, he's here. I want to go and see you. So now I'm in his hotel room. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a lifelong membership, and
Mhm.
and I get a ton of referrals from our fraternity. I mean, wrongful death cases, big
Mhm.
cases, not just the everyday car accident that I've
Mhm.
gotten from my fraternity.
Yeah, yeah, that's great, and I guess it also helps that you pretty much grew up in Eastern North Carolina, right? So you have connections from where you grew up or people who knew you from college as well as law school and everything too, right?
Definitely. And Facebook
Yeah.
helps now because now I get to
Mhm.
see people that before Facebook, because I really don't do other social media like I do
Mhm.
Facebook. But Facebook helps because people who I grew up with now they know how to reach out to me, and that could be a
Yeah.
curse, as you may know, Judy. If you are an attorney, you may
Mhm.
get a ton of messages saying, I need this family law issue or something I may not do. But still, I try to take time to respond to people. Number one, because I try to be helpful when I can, and number two, I get referrals from people from back home as well. A ton of
Mhm.
high
Yeah.
school classmates and others.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I mean, that's definitely an advantage because, since I grew up in Georgia and went to school in California and then DC, and I didn't even go to
Hmm.
law school or college around here, I did feel like I was at a huge disadvantage coming into the legal profession here in the Triangle area, not really knowing people. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's awesome that you had so many like different areas of networking and
Mhm.
organizations you had been active in,
Yeah,
where
plus
people
NC
refer
State
to.
friends, my NC State classmates,
Mhm.
right? I have my high school folk, I have NC
Mm.
State, my fraternity, other
Yeah.
attorneys. So I just try to cultivate all of them and,
Mhm.
have them come together. So honestly, now I don't do any marketing because of just
Oh,
referrals. I get just all referrals, and I'm in a position now I could turn people away.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
did you ever do, like, lawyers referral service, or was that not
Yeah.
necessary?
So
Uh-huh.
my first personal injury case that I settled came
Mhm.
from the lawyer's referral service.
Wow.
The very first case, and guess what? That same client
Mhm.
today, I've represented him in about 3 or 4 cases, auto accident.
What? Why is he always in an auto accident? Something's
Well,
weird here.
the first case I
Yeah.
represented him in, he actually fell through a floor at an apartment building.
Oh,
Yes, it was a premises
premises
liability case.
liability.
And he
Yeah.
was stuck in between the floors because he was a big guy, and thank God.
Oh,
And he was stuck between the floors for hours, and
oh,
the sharp wood and the material stuck inside of him. It was pretty bad injuries.
oh.
But yeah, so after that case, even when I left my firm, he just
Mhm,
Googled me and he found me. He
mhm.
was in a car accident, but I've since represented his girlfriend, his girlfriend's sister, his
Oh,
girlfriend's mother. I
hmm.
just finished a case with his girlfriend's mother from that one
Wow.
case. Yeah, like a few weeks ago. But that's how. And his girlfriend's cousin, I just got her like last week.
Okay. The whole entire
From
family, extended
yeah,
family plus friends. Yeah.
but that's how it works when you build up that referral basis, right? You never know that one client could turn into a whole array of future
Yeah.
clients. It's like a family tree.
Well, I wouldn't say career plaintiffs because these are like people that knew the original client. Yeah, it's not the same person that kept getting injured over and over and over again. So,
Well, he was in 3 accidents,
oh,
but from there, but that same story has panned out with many of my other clients. I try to do a good job, be honest with people. I like to tell my clients, I'm going to be honest. It may not be what you want to hear, but that's me doing my job. I'm going to be respectful and honest. I'm
mhm.
not going to tell you the sky is red when clearly it is blue. But that's what you want. You don't want to go to a doctor and you have cancer and they say, well, no, go home. You okay?
Yeah, everything will be
Right?
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, just go home. Everything is okay. It's my job
Mhm.
to be honest and be respectful. And personal injury is all about the money, right? I mean, my only remedy in most cases is money. And a lot of people want that $1 million case. But I like to tell my clients, look, if you have $1 million case, that means you have $1 million injuries. And
Mhm.
you don't want that, right? So please believe you don't want that because catastrophic injuries, the clients who I've represented with them, they always tell me no amount of money could compensate me for these injuries. So
Mhm.
I try to be honest and also build expectations early on in my cases. And that's why I get, I think, so many referrals.
Yeah, yeah, because they can tell that you're down to earth and you're being honest with them. You're not just
Mm-hmm.
some like fast talking, sleazy attorney, the stereotypical personal injury attorney that advertises on
Exactly.
TV and lies to them and stuff. Yeah. So,
Exactly.
but what about now? Like, do you still do criminal defense or have you tailored down your practice to really just do personal injury and workers' comp or auto
I,
accidents?
I have not done criminal defense since 2017 now.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and when I was doing it, most of my cases were court appointed work. So I really enjoyed that, number one, because I felt I was really giving back. And I got to a point I was trying a lot of cases, and I always told those clients, I'm going to give you the same representation as if you paid me $2,000 for this case. Even
Hmm.
though it's court appointed work, I'm going to give you the same representation.
Hmm.
And those cases actually would turn into personal injury cases because
Hmm.
again, we all get into car accidents,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And my first wrongful death case came from a a case where I represented somebody from court appointed work.
Oh, okay. What kind of
Yes.
wrongful death case was it?
Um, it was very, very sad. I'll never forget it. But it was a guy who was about 23 years old, and he was riding on Millbrook Road in Raleigh, and he
Mhm.
was traveling about 85 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. And his 4-year-old nephew was in the car with him, unbelted, and neither
Oh.
was he. Neither one had on their seatbelt. Of
Mhm.
course, he lost control. He had a car hit on. His nephew died on the scene, and he died later in the hospital. But I
Mhm.
represented the estate of his nephew against him,
Oh,
the
okay.
uncle. Correct. Yep.
Wow, so sad. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, so that's interesting though that, just doing one area of law, wound up ultimately getting you another case in a different area of law then.
Exactly. Exactly. Because
Mhm.
it was unique because that court appointed client, he called me and said my nephew, it was actually his brother that died in a car accident and his
Oh,
nephew. And he
oh.
called me and he was like, well, my brother, my nephew died in a car accident. Can you help? And I saw the
Mhm.
accident report and I realized, well, his brother was clearly grossly negligent by causing the death. And I was able to prevail against his insurance company.
Yeah, I see. Wow, that's a sad story, but glad you were able to, help the family then. Christy has a question. Do you guys think being honest up front is the best way for the client not to get mad at the end of the day? I agree. What do you think?
Yes, totally. In
Yeah.
fact, I try to be so honest up front. I would turn away a client if they do not agree with my analysis. Because I try to play devil's advocate, especially when it comes to these injury cases, because, we have contributory negligence in our state, and that's a major issue often in these cases. So I always try to say, look, I see this being an issue. And if a client is unreasonable and say to me, well, I can't see or refuse to see that issue, at times I say, well, I may not be the right client attorney for you because the case may never settle, right? And that's the ultimate goal. If a client is unreasonable, I always try to be honest, yes, deadly honest with people.
Yeah. And it's good that you're at the stage in your career where you have the confidence and the ability to just turn away some cases and be like, that's not worth my time.
Yeah, it's not worth my time. Yeah, at this point, I'm sure you're the same way. I could read personalities. I dealt with so many people, and I will say respectfully, I don't think I'm the right attorney for you, but here's a referral maybe. And, and honesty is to me, for an example, I get a lot of clients from bigger firms. They fire them, and I'm not going to name any names, of course, but they say, yeah, I never could talk to my attorney. I have to talk to the case manager or, all these people, and I never talk to my attorney. But with me, you could text me, you could call me, you could email me, and I will respond to you. And I try to be honest. And I hear stories from these clients that come to me, and they say, well, this law firm promised me all this money. And I say in that first conversation, your case is big. You may have $1 million case, but your case is only as big as who hit you, who causes the accident, right?
Yeah.
Because if that person is judgment proof and they have a $30,000 policy, you may never see a penny more than that. So I'm not going to tell you you are going to get all this money. I will look into it, but I foresee it's going to be an issue.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I mean, how do you handle, juggling all of these things? Because if you like to give that personal touch and personally respond to your clients' emails and phone calls and stuff, like how do you keep your sanity and how's your office run or staffed?
Well, now I'm at a point that I don't take on every case that comes my way, so I could be more selective. So my caseload may not be as large, but I have better quality cases, so it's easier for me to manage now compared to having so many clients, right? I could say, well, this case is only soft tissue injuries, minor impact. I don't think I want that case, but here's a referral. And I could be more selective, and that makes it easier for me to manage because, again, for me, family time is very important. So I want to be able to not work 80 hours. I want to be able to come home and spend time with my wife and kids. So I'm more selective, but actually I make more doing that because when I had so many cases, I couldn't see those bigger cases or take them on because I had so many clients who had small cases. So that's how I do it now.
And how many people, I mean, you have like one main paralegal or legal assistant, right? Who does a ton of work and the hand holding and stuff with the clients, right?
Yes, I try to keep it small. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, can I work for you? Can I be your partner? But I'm a simple guy. To me, being simple, don't overthink, don't overdo. Just try to keep it as simple as you can. I did add on workers' comp to my practice areas because it goes hand in hand with injury often when you have somebody who may be in a car accident at work. So, for me, that was a lot to learn workers' comp. And in fact, I think I'm going to become board certified at some point in workers' comp.
Oh, great.
Yeah, but, I try to keep it simple. And to me, that's the best philosophy for me, right? Don't bring in all these attorneys because now my overhead is high. I have to do more managing, less practicing, and it's more stress.
Yeah. And speaking of, the overhead and stuff, what kind of advice would you give young lawyers who might be thinking about doing their own practice? Because don't you need to have a lot of money saved up in the first place to be able to front the costs for these kinds of cases? Uh-oh. Looks like he's stuck again. Oh no, Dominique, can you hear me? Maybe you have to log back in again. Okay, well, let me flash Serena's question. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Serena asked, speaking of time, what's the range of time you spend on your cases and how long do cases last? So I used to do personal injury cases also at the previous law firms that I worked for. So I'll just answer that question since Dominique had to log off and hopefully he'll log back on. So it really depends because sometimes people hire you early on, like right after they get hit in the auto accident. And oh, good. Hey, Dominique, thank you so much for joining again. So I started answering this person here about how long do cases last. So it just really depends because sometimes people don't hire you right after the accident occurs. Like sometimes people try to deal with the insurance company themselves, and then they feel like the insurance company is not being fair with them. So they get upset and finally start calling around with attorneys and stuff. And also in personal injury cases, you typically wait until the person is done with all of their medical treatment, because otherwise, how do you know what the damages are or how long lasting the person's injuries are or how much they lost in terms of lost wages? So typically I would wait until the person is at maximum medical improvement and then gather up all the records, the evidence of lost wages, and try to create a settlement package to try to settle it with the insurance company. And then if they won't settle for what you think is fair, then that's when you might, if it's a good case, move forward with filing a lawsuit, which could then drag on for another year or more, before you get to mediation. And a lot of cases settle at mediation, or it could drag on for another year and then maybe you do a trial. But a lot of cases settle, though. I mean, that's my experience. What about you, Dominique?
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
Most of my cases do settle. I would say the high 90 plus percentile settle pre-litigation. And even in litigation, most of my cases settle. Again, the very high 90 plus percentile do settle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or else by then you personally, as an attorney, you can also find out that this case really isn't that great. I'm finding out more facts that are not good for my client. And then, you might tell the client, take this settlement, or just, sometimes you do have to just drop the client or drop the case if it turns out that the client had been exaggerating or there's something bad in the case that you probably can't overcome.
That's not always easy to drop, though, because maybe the statute ran and the judge won't let you out, or the trial is coming up. I've had that experience. A case was worth about $30,000, maybe $40,000, and she wanted $800,000.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and the
What'd you
statute
do?
is eventually it settled like the day of the trial.
Oh.
Yeah. So almost on the courthouse steps.
Okay, well, I bet you were relieved, right? But then on the other hand, you don't want the client then trash talking you or having like buyer's remorse, later on saying that, oh, it's your fault, you pressured me into settling.
Yeah, I mean, she was a good client. It was her husband, and she would tell me that. She would like, my husband is coming, I can't talk anymore. So, yeah, so she is why I'm bald today, because of her case.
You lost all your hair. I thought that was just your look. I didn't realize you actually lost your hair. So, yeah, I see. Okay, and Christy has another question. Do people really hire private investigators to see if the person is lying? Yes, they do. The insurance companies often do that. I've had that happen to some of my clients, and it was so embarrassing. Well, not really embarrassing to me, but I was like shocked because I had this one client a long time ago when I did these auto cases. And every time I called him, he would be like, just whining and saying, no, I still feel terrible. I wake up every day and my neck is killing me and my back and blah, blah. I still need to see the doctor and stuff. So this just kept dragging on and on and on for like maybe over a year. And then lo and behold, one day the insurance company adjuster like forwarded me over some video and pictures of my client hitting the gym and like running really fast on the treadmill and lifting weights and, going to a gym. It was crazy that they had like snuck in a hidden camera. A private investigator had followed my client multiple times to his gym and had evidence of him, doing all this strenuous exercise while he was claiming that, he was all like debilitated from a car accident. So
and you know
they
what?
didn't offer anything. Yeah.
That's the exact same thing that happened to that one case I was just telling you about. They follow her to the gym. The
Oh,
case that settled on the day of the trial, they follow her to the gym, and I was relieved to see the pictures because I knew her case wasn't worth what she was asking for. But
yeah.
when I saw the photos, I showed them to her, and she was really upset. That's an invasion of privacy. Well, no, it's a
Hmm.
public space.
Hmm.
You are in public, going to the gym, and that
Hmm.
really helped me to convince her to settle. And she was happy at the end. She was like, "Yeah, it's the best outcome."
Yeah, she's lucky she got anything then. I mean, so a lot of times people are just kind of ungrateful or they're so biased that they can't even see straight when it comes to
Hmm.
their own case. So, yeah, you
Yep.
must have to deal with some unreasonable people who act like that and they don't think they did anything wrong or they weren't
Hmm.
lying to you or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so Serena says, I spoke to someone who worked as a personal injury paralegal. She said she couldn't do her work because clients blew her phone line. Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. I mean, that's why I stopped doing personal injury law because I didn't have the assistants who could deal with all these phone calls and people complaining
Hmm.
and just wanting me to be a broken record saying the same thing over and
Yeah.
over to them. Yeah.
I mean, it's all about money, right? And you have people who may be hard up on money and they want their case to settle now. But
Mhm.
again, like you said earlier, like I've told clients, well, you are still going to the chiropractor. We cannot settle your case now,
Mhm.
so you have to wait. But, my clients typically will follow my lead. I must say I've had great experiences. The case I was telling you about just now, that was just that one case, but typically they listen to my advice and follow what I tell them. And now again, I can be more selective. So that
Yeah.
helps.
And I think that's good for us, just getting older, you feel like you
Hmm.
can talk more assertively to your
Hmm.
clients because it used to be weird to me when, like, these clients would be a lot older than me, but
Hmm.
now it's like, wow, most of my clients are younger than I am now, so they better listen to me, I feel like I can be more forceful and just tell them, "This is what's gonna happen, and this is why you need to do this and listen to me." Yeah, so
Exactly.
yeah, and Serena also asks, "Is that the case for your office and that your clients contact you excessively? What do you do to handle this?" Okay, what if Dominique, like, what do you do if someone's contacting you excessively?
So I just had that experience recently. I had a client. He was injured at work. He had a unique job. He was a pig inseminator. So
What?
he would impregnate pigs.
Oh,
Well, yeah, that's a job, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, in
and what happened?
agriculture.
Yeah, yeah. So a pig got loose and ran over him. And he was injured. And bless his soul, but he would call me 3, 4 times a day for weeks, and
Oh,
I just couldn't take it. And I told my paralegal I have to disengage because to me that's unreasonable. And if I went a day or two without talking to him, he would be upset. And I told
mhm,
him, look, I've spoken to you more in 1 month than I've done with any client ever. I want you to
mhm,
know that. So, I could see that we are not working out. So I need to like move on, and maybe you could find, more another attorney that just refer him out.
mhm,
But typically, my clients don't do that.
mhm. Yeah, I think in general, if you just like set some guidelines, unless the person's really mentally ill, most people will take the hint and realize, okay, I
Mm,
don't need to be calling my attorney, more than once a week or just keep it through email.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just especially tough when you're doing personal injury cases and they're not paying you by the hour like for
Mm,
family law clients. So yeah, I mean, that's what I got frustrated about doing personal injury because like people just keep bugging you and they don't realize you're not making any money,
mhm.
on the case. And who knows if it will be profitable because sometimes there are cases that turn out to be like loser cases. So
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, it's only billable if you do it by the hour, but for, auto accidents, wrongful death, workers' comp, those are all done on a contingency fee. Yeah, and also, like, you also have to have money saved up too to pay for experts. Like, don't you often have to hire medical experts or pay for second opinions for your clients or
Yes.
depositions?
Yeah. So what I tell my clients when I decide to file suit in your case, to me, it's a simple business decision. It's not personal. It's not
Mhm,
based if I like you or not. I have to look at your case and I have to feel good about getting my money back because I do have to invest cost doing depositions, talking to your doctor, they charge me money up front. Deposing your doctor, they charge me money up front. I've had cases where I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands on the case, hoping that I will win the case to get my money back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's really tough though. So you have to also be really good with finances or keeping track of your budget, right?
Definitely. Now the case of the lady in that I settled on the courthouse door,
mm-hmm.
in her case, I was like, I'm willing to lose all my money.
You just want to get out of it.
Yeah, I was like, I'll write it off. And it was about $4,900.
Wow.
Yeah, but it settled and I got my money back. But typically I always get all my money back. I've never had a case that I've invested and, did not get my money back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that definitely boils down to having a good judgment when you're first selecting the cases, right? Because you have to know what's a good case versus what's just going to be a waste of your time and money.
Exactly. And again, when I'm negotiating with the insurance company, I tell my clients, well, I don't like the offer. I think it is a little lowball, but it will cost more money and time to litigate your case than what it is worth. So I don't think your case is good for litigation. You have soft tissue injuries. It's going to cost me $3,000 or $4,000 just talking to your doctors, right? To get them to come to trial, it's going to cost me all this money. So even if a jury gives you $5,000 more than what the insurance company just offered you, you are going to net less money because of the cost. Plus, my attorney's fee will go up in litigation. So it doesn't make any sense. And when you say it that way, oftentimes they will agree with you.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of it has to do with being able to communicate well with your client and kind of persuade them gently so they don't feel offended or just get riled up and get mad at you, right?
Exactly. But that starts from the beginning for me, that first conversation, being honest and telling them, I'm going to be honest. And, I may even tell you, you should file suit. And you may say, I don't want to. That's your decision. Or you may say, I want to file suit. And I would say no, because it doesn't meet my business model, right? So, either we can settle or you can go elsewhere if you want. You are free to do that. But again, I'm just going to be honest with you. And sometimes I remind clients, look, I have an interest in your case too, right? So I get a percentage. I'm not going to just lay down and take whatever they offer. I do really fight to maximize your case for you and for me. I have bills too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's see, we're already at 52 minutes now. So are there any other tips or advice that you would give out there to people who want to go into personal injury law?
Yeah, keep your overhead low at first. If you are going as a solo practitioner, don't go out and get this big office and all this overhead, because again, you do have to invest money in these cases. Make sure you have a pipeline of cases before you go out if you don't have any other areas of law that you can bring in money. Like, for an example, for me, criminal was a good way for me to keep my lights on for years because I was making money doing crim D. So have a plan in place. How can I make money while I build up my personal injury practice? Because in PI, it's all about your pipeline. You bring them in, you settle. You bring them in, you settle. So have another plan to keep your lights on while you build up your practice and network.
Yeah. And how long have you had your own practice?
This coming August will be 10 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 10 years. That's great. That's a real milestone. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and Serena has another question. Thank you so much for being active in the chat. What types of cases fall under wrongful death as opposed to criminal charges? Is the remedy always money in such cases?
Well, typically, that's all I can get is money for the family of the decedent. Cases I've had for wrongful death are mostly motor vehicle accidents. I've had medical malpractice where the person died due to the medical malpractice of the doctor or the physician. You can sue a person who murdered someone, like OJ, for an example. He was found not guilty in criminal court, but the family then sued him for wrongful death, and they won that case. That's a great example where, yes, you can sue an individual for monetary damages, even when the underlying facts are murder. But typically it involves a car accident or some type of insurance claim.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's pretty much in the civil context, you're asking for money to make up for the loss of the person's life, like lost wages, the whatever, benefits the person might have given to his or her family, the companionship lost, when somebody gets killed. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, my other live stream last night was about the Bill Cosby case. So with the Bill Cosby situation, he was also sued in civil court by that woman, Andrea Constand, and that was settled for a large sum of money. But then they brought the criminal charges against him also, which ultimately sent him in jail, and then it just got overturned. So yeah, I mean, we have the criminal side of things plus the civil side of things. So and it looks like, Attorney Williams is now doing the civil side of things as opposed to criminal. Oops, it looks like I just lost him again. I think the internet connection is not very good at that hotel room. So, well, anyway, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. I see another questions here. Oh, yeah. Thanks for being on the live stream last night also, the Cosby Show one. Okay, and now Dominique is back. Okay.
Hey, I am in a hotel room.
I know. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you came back again before I just said, okay, well, good night, everybody. So, and now we have another question. Serena says, do you charge the same percentage on all cases? If not, how do you determine your rate?
Typically, I charge 1/3, but Judy actually, when I interned for Judy, by the way, when I was a 2L.
Like in 2008, maybe, or 2007?
Yeah, exactly. So you told me about the Hyatt legal plan. Now it's MetLife legal plan.
Yes.
So which is like a prepaid legal plan, and I get cases from the MetLife legal plan. And with that, I charge 25% just based on the agreement that I have with MetLife. So it's 25% with them, but typically it is 1/3. And for minors, it is always 25%.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then for workers' comp, like, wasn't that limited to 25% by statute? Because I used to do workers' comp, and I seem to remember we charged 25% of the recovery.
Correct. 25%, and the industrial commission must approve the attorney's fee.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you don't do Social Security disability appeals, do you? Okay.
No.
Yeah, yeah, because in those types of cases, it's basically limited by statute, as to, percentage of the back due benefits that the person gets up to a certain number of thousands of dollars that changes over the years. Yeah. But that sounds pretty typical. I have heard of some firms that charge like a 40% contingency fee, but I guess it varies depending on the kind of case as well as what the market will bear. So
yes. Now, if I do file suit, my fee goes from 1/3 to 40%. Again, it's a lot more time, a lot more money, a lot more risk for me. So risk equals more money.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's just like so much money that you can sink into somebody's case, and then you just don't know. Like, you could wind up getting less than what they originally offered to settle before you filed the lawsuit, or you could lose. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks so much for being here and asking so many great questions here. And then, so Dominique, like, do you feel like going to law school paid off for you? I mean, I guess that's always a question that a lot of people talk about, even on YouTube. Like, was law school worth it?
For me, yes. But of course, I know a lot of attorneys who it did not pan out. They left the industry, or they just really, are not where they want to be financially. But for me, I do think so. A lot of it, in my opinion, has to do with your personality and if you network and what practice area that you go into.
Yeah. And definitely, I feel like you took advantage of all your opportunities and really did a great job networking. And you've stayed in the same area in North Carolina where, you really got to know lots of people who funnel cases to you. So, all these different sources of referrals and stuff really helps grow a practice. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, any parting words out there?
No, just enjoy your holiday weekend, remain safe, and thank you all so much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. You can stay on for an additional minute, but I'll go ahead and end the broadcast. Have a great,
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry. Here's another comment. Sometimes the client ends up owing the firm after the settlement. I think most of the time the firms don't go after the person because it's just kind of bad form. And that's not typical, at least where we practice, for the law firm to then go after the person. But I did work for one firm that did have in the contract saying that ultimately the client is responsible for the actual expenses, like mediator expenses or whatever expenses. But most of the time we didn't even bother going after people. You know, it's bad
I
enough if
agree.
you lose their case, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Thank you, Joanne, for being here. And thank you, Sue, also. I like your Bob the Builder little avatar. Okay. Have a great 4th of July then. Thank you for being here.